Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm James Dietrich, Chair of the NEOACM, and I want to welcome you to our remote tech talk, Audio Editing Workflow for Videos 101 with Julie Swango. Today's tech talk will review the tools and processes used to efficiently process audio from video sources utilizing open source software in a GNU/Linux environment. The talk covers basic groundwork for setting up an audio environment in GNU/Linux, as well as utilizing FFmpeg to extract audio from video and swapping out audio tracks in video. So for those of you who are with us for the first time, NEOACM is the Northeastern Ohio Association for Computing Machinery, and it's the professional chapter of the International ACM, the world's largest educational and scientific computing society that advances computing as a science and profession. NEOACM is based in Youngstown, Ohio, and for 10 years of our existence, we have regularly met to discuss diverse topics and function as an intellectual and geographical node of activity for both ACM members, the computing community, and the general public by offering seminars, lectures, forums, and the opportunity to meet peers and experts from many disciplines. Today, we're having our second meetup for our new Tech Talk Series 101. With this new series, we'll be sponsoring remote tech talks that are introductory treatment of topics for computing students and professionals. So before I begin, I want to go over how things will work. Mrs. Swango's presentation will be 35 minutes. It will be a mix of live discussion, a few slides, and a few short video clips. If you're interested in posing questions, post your question in the chat anytime during the presentation or the Q&A. Tracy Hughes, our co-chair, will be our moderator. She will take the questions from the chat to pose to Julie. We'll also have a very short 5-question survey we'd like everyone to take before the conclusion of the meeting. Our presenter today is Julie Swango. Julie is a software developer, musician, and audio enthusiast. She's been a member of NEOACM since 2015 and an ACM member since 2011. Julie has previously presented on topics including test automation, distributed version control systems, introduction to MuseScore at our 2018 Synth God Mass Symposium on music automation and synthesis with Dave Smith, an overview of sample-based synthesis at our remote Synth God Mass Symposium 2 on digital versus analog synthesis with Jordan Rudess that took place in March of this year. And she's also done presentations for the Ohio Celebration of Women in Computing conferences. So at this point, I want to present Julie Swango. Take it away, Julie.
Hey, thank you, everyone. Appreciate you guys letting me do this today. When it said a few slides, I actually have a lot of slides, but I'm going to move fast through them, and I'm going to try to get to doing the demoing pretty quick. Let me go ahead and switch over to my slide deck. Anyways, presentation today is audio editing workflow for videos. And this all came about, I've been doing audio for a long time, but video has been pretty new to me with the pandemic and everything. I got into it with my spouse whose church needed video services and weekly uploads of services to their YouTube channel. So together we embarked on how to make that happen. And let me step through this a little bit here. Let's see here. And as I already spoken about, you know, I won't recover it, but basically I'm going to use a Linux-based system. Actually, we use 2 of them here to do the processing. FFmpeg to handle some of the lifting for us, and Audacity and CAF Studio gear, which is a series, I'll get into that as well, but to help edit the audio. And then we use Shotcut to assemble the videos, do our final leveling of all the clips, and then our rendering. So let me step forward through that. The first thing is the environment. Ideally, you would like to use something that has been packaged up for multimedia use. A real-time kernel is nice, solid builds. You know, there's a lot of quirks to getting audio video system running up on Linux, and they sort of take care of that for you, and you're going to look for support in forums. Unfortunately, my issue I found is a lot of these don't have a lot of staying power. People get on a bandwagon, they go, they start creating one, and then it loses steam, and so that's a problem. But some of the ones that I found that have stuck around are Ubuntu Studio and Dynabolic. I have not used Dynabolic, but I have used Ubuntu Studio before, and this is the Ubuntu Studio. This is their homepage, but it's basically geared towards it and fits a lot of the specs that I said that you would want to look for if you wanted a high-end AV system running on Linux. That would be a good way to just get in and start going. And the other one is Dyne.org. They have the Dynabolic. Also, these are all free software, free to use. It is a commitment to swap out your OS. You could put it in a vert, but I can't really recommend that if you're actually really going to try to do audio video work in real time. That just doesn't sound like a good plan. My pick is I'm using Linux Mint. Just it's a stable build, has support, and is based off of Ubuntu long-term support. So there's a lot of longevity, and that's super nice because then I'm not always upgrading. I can set my system up and let it run and run and run. And that's really something you want to do if you're going to do AV work. You just want that machine to be stable for you. The issues are it's a general purpose build. It's not really tuned for audio. The legwork I typically do is I install a low latency kernel. I did not put an RT kernel in, a real-time kernel. Most of the stuff I do, that low latency kernel is plenty good. And also it's right inside the package manager. You can just grab it and install it. And I also use a tool called Real-Time Config Quick Scan. And that is basically some Perl scripts that you run, and it tells you what to tweak to get your system humming. And let me step through that for you. Linux Mint, there's their homepage there. You can go there, you can download their stuff and install it. There's lots of ways to make that happen. The low latency kernel, I'm just right inside the Synaptic Package Manager of Linux Mint. And you can see I already have it installed, but you just go in there and you search for it, install it. And, since it is the kernel, you'll need typically a reboot is good, but you can actually install the kernel and keep running. You just won't get the low latency until you reboot. So, and then the other one is this real-time config quick scan. I pulled mine off of GitHub, and I'm just going to point that out to you real quick here. Let's see here. Here's a run of it, a screenshot. I ran it. And it just goes through and runs and tells you all the things that you want to have set up, everywhere from your CPU to setting up your audio groups and lots of things. You can see right there, one more slide there. You can see it says not good. And this tool helpfully gives you a link to a wiki page in this case. And that says, do I really need real-time audio? And they'll basically, any of them that say not good on you, they're going to give you some help, tell you where to go on the internet to go find how to solve your problem. So that's why I like to use this tool, is because I can't remember all this stuff. So when I do set up, I pull this guy in and I run it and get everything other than the real-time preemptive kernel going. I just use the low latency kernel. On a modern system, you don't really have to do this for the things we're doing today. You don't have to go crazy setting all this up. The computer I'm demoing on, I built in 2007. So it needs all this stuff to make it go. But for what we're actually doing here today, you don't really need to do all this. But if you're going to do any kind of other high-end audio stuff, multi-tracking, recording, if you're going to use some of the other more DAW type tools, then you're definitely going to want to do this. All right. The next thing you want to do is you want to set up some additional software. And in our case for today, we're talking about Audacity, Shotcut, CAF Studio Gear, and FFmpeg. Once again, Audacity is in the repository on Linux Mint, but you can also go to these home pages. This is cross-platform. You could use it on Windows, Mac, or Linux. You can download it, install it, go. The other one is Shotcut. This one is also cross-platform as well. Linux, Mac, Windows. it will work fine for you. And we're going to use that today. It is also in my repositories, but Audacity and Shotcut, I actually have pulled my own builds from them, and I'm using those instead of what's in the repository. And the staff CAF studio gear, I'm using them as LV2 compliant devices, which basically means they're plugins into Audacity. So once again, I pulled these off of their website and I've installed them, and then that's what I'm using. And everything's right there to get you going. And FFmpeg. A lot of these tools I'm talking about, like Audacity and Shotcut, behind the scenes, they're actually really using FFmpeg for a lot of their work anyways. So it's actually, but I actually like it as the command line tool as well. And we'll be getting into how to use this specifically to handle our workflow for getting audio out of video and remarrying it, and also trying to avoid re-rendering and resampling as much as possible in this process. The audio editing workflow here is, you can see there's in these sort of bluish boxes, there's a video editing computer and an audio editing computer. And this is sort of the high level overview. The boxes in yellow are the things that I'm hoping to touch on today with you folks and sort of either demo or highlight or spend some time talking about. I don't want to, focus on a lot of these other aspects too much, but I wanted to give you an idea of this workflow. The big thing here, the big gotchas are the distribute content and the copy editing content to the video, mostly because in our workflow that I've had, usually I have most of the material Friday, some of it comes in Saturday, and that video needs to be done before I go to bed Saturday night so that it's up and ready Sunday morning. So we're usually looking at videos that are 45 minutes to an hour long, and typically we have anywhere between 10 to 30 different clips we have to integrate and edit and get processed and rendered and up to YouTube. So that's our distribution platform. And to poke at this a little bit, this is sort of the file logistics of everything. In the upper left, you can see collaborators, people who are contributing stuff to us. Sometimes, mostly people are just using their phones and recording and uploading stuff. Sometimes we get audio, images, video. They put it in Google Drive. Down at the 2B where we're copying files in, that's typically stuff I've recorded myself with our cameras. We got a few cameras and we have a multi-track recorder. Usually that's stuff that's happening in the church sanctuary, just things that we've recorded and need to process. So some of them go right into the video editing. Everything goes downloaded into the video editing computer. And then we copy some stuff over to the audio editing computer. And then once the audio has been edited, we shuttle it back over to the video editing computer and then up to YouTube. That's our process. Definitely, there could be a more technical way. Currently, we just use SDs with a thumb drive adapter and walk them up and down between the two computers as needed. We could do it over a network. We just never bothered. That's just been our workflow. So that's what we do. All right. What I'd like to talk to you is basically leading up to the first demo. I wanted to show you FFmpeg. In this first top line here, you can see we're going to go to the command line here in a minute, and we're going to run through these commands real fast in my first demo. But the first one, FFmpeg-I, that just means input file, and then you give it the file name. And it will spit out a bunch of information for you and tell you a lot about that movie file, specifics you'll need to understand how to best copy and manipulate it. The second one actually does the copying, so I just want to step you through this while we're here on the screen. Here, the file extensions, there's a lot of magic behind it. It says, oh, you're going from movie to AAC. So AAC is a file format for audio, and movie is a container that contains audio and video. So it is smart enough to know with this -C, it's just going to, if it can, just copy the stream. It is not going to re-encode it. It's just going to take this, extract the stream from the movie and put it in this AAC file. So it's going to use the suffixes or the file extensions to decide, and then whatever parameters you pass it to try to guess what you're intending to do. In this case, we're just going to copy that stream out into an AAC file. And then once you have an edited video, in this case, it's a movie and a WAV file. Movie file containers can actually hold a WAV file. MP4s cannot. So you have to give it a compressed file. So I like to throw a WAV back inside the movie file, just because then I'm not dealing with something that's been compressed. So once again, I got the copy, but the one I want to talk about here is the mapping. The numbers in here are zero-based indexes. So on that first line, 0v0, that is the first index of the input file. So that's the movie file. It's going to take the video out, and then it's going to write it to the first video stream that it can in the container that you're the test demo -edit movie. And then the mapping, it's going to take the second file, so one, and then it's going to grab the audio stream and then write it out to the first audio stream of your output file. So those are sort of the heart of what's happening here in these calls. And let me switch over now. Oops, let's try that. All right. Hopefully you can see my screen here. And I'm just going to go through this real quick. So we're just going to let me grab some text here so you don't have to watch me type poorly. So just like that first line we talked about, it spit out a bunch of stuff. Let me scroll up here a little bit. Let's see here. It looks like I did something wrong. My forgetting something here. Oh, I see what happened. I moved the wrong file. I got an AAC file already. Let me see here. That's what I want. So I already had one. So I'm not too sure what happened, but we're just gonna see. Yeah, we'll delete that guy. All right, let's try that again. Now we're in a good spot. Apologies. So anyways, this is what I was expecting. What's important here for us, that the content is AAC, and this is a 44.1 hertz file. I'm not so concerned about the video, but they give you all kinds of specs there too, in case you are trying to do something important with that. So hopefully that makes sense there. So we'll just go ahead and run the next command here. So we're just gonna take this video. This video is a couple minutes long. This is really pretty fast. Done. It is done. So if I LSAL, you can see it's there. And then down below on the other screen here, you can see I got that test video AAC. And let me go over to the kitchen here for a minute. And I'm going to pull out my edited file. We'll just move it up there for a minute. So there's my edited file. So we've done our editing, and now we want to remarry that thing. We'll just run that last command that I talked about. Here, run it, and it really is that fast. So, like some of our larger video segments that are like 20 minutes long, like if we're just doing continuous shots of in the sanctuary, those get broken up into 23-minute chunks. This thing will run for maybe a minute or so, and it'll swap out those streams. So, that works out pretty well for us and for me when I do this. So let me switch back now. Oops, this is what we want. All right. This is going to lead up to what we want to do. We don't really want to run those scripts individually each time. So I created a few scripts to just go and point it at a directory and then extract all the audio out and create AAC files for them. So unfortunately, that means for MP3 files or MP4s, a lot of times there's a different compressed file. I am doing a conversion, but the reality is that it's all going to get converted anyway. So I just take the hit for that. But most of the time, most of the movie files have AACs in them. That's what they're using behind the scenes. So for efficiency's sake, I just convert everything to AAC and move forward. And let me show you here. Let me take the next one. In particular, all the script does, the heart of it is that call that I showed you, which was the copy stream. So, and then while we're here, let's show this one here. The video replace audio, same thing, just a lot of things to collect up the files in the directory. And this is the heart of it here. Just that call that I showed you wrapped up, going through each of the files in the directory and remarrying the audio with the video and giving you a -edit file. All right, let me show you my next demo here. Oops, went one too far. So it's all right. Make sure we're in a looks like we're in a good state here. For those that like the command, oops. There we go. All right, so I don't have anything in here, which is unfortunate, but we'll go in here to the well, my screen, let's go to my screen down here. Go here, go to the second demo. All right, well, I'll just go grab those original ones and we'll move them up. All right. So now I have a directory of items here. So I'll just do, oops, got to get into the right screen here. Video to AAC. I've just put these on my path so I can get to them, and I just pass it the current directory, and it just starts working here and quickly goes through and starts tearing those videos apart and ripping them out and creating these files here. Each one's now got a converted file along with the original. So that's what we wanted. So that's good. Let's shorten this back up. All right. So we did that. And once again, come in here to this. These are, we just pretend we've edited these now just for the demo. And now we've moved them back to that field here. Let's see, went back too far. So now we have, move this up. So now we have the AAC file. Here, where did my, well, I moved them, but I must have moved them to the wrong spot. I did, silly me. Move them in here, there we go. All right. So now we got each of these files, you'll end up with an AAC file, an M4A file. That's what I've been exporting everything as M4A, which is just a different container that can hold an AAC file and I think video possibly, but in the end, it's still got the AAC file inside of it. It's just a wrapper. So each one has its corresponding part there. And for the movies, we got WAV files. So let's go back below and run the next script here. So make sure we're good. We got all of our files, and then just video, replace audio, current directory. And this thing's running and it goes pretty fast as well. So this is just one of the biggest time savers is just getting all of this stuff to run for us and to copy. And this last one looks like it's a little bit bigger, whatever we grabbed there. I bet that was, there we go. So it's all done. So now when we look at this directory here, we actually have some edit files for each of these. It says -edit, and those ones are the ones that show, that they've been edited and remarried, and that's how I know the original from the final one. So that's how those scripts help us do that process. So that's sort of the nuts and bolts of that. Now I'd like to focus a little bit on the editing side of things. So in editing, typically I'm using Audacity. CAF Studio Gear is the plugin, a lot of plugins we're using, but some of Audacity also comes with some of its own plugins. So I just gave the list here, and I'm going to step through those real fast before I actually demo anything, in case people have some questions about what it is I'm doing with these plugins. Amplify. That's simple enough. It is basically like a volume knob. Like if you want your audio louder or if you want it quieter, you just adjust this. You can do it. You can set a new peak, which I tend to like. I use that one, the new peak. Or you can do a relative amplification. And sometimes if I'm just doing some clip gaining, I'll just set that dB amplification to -1. And then I'll just select the audio I want, and then, you know, damp it down if it's a loud part that I need quiet until it looks good on the screen or feels good when I listen to it. And then I usually use the new peak one to, there's some levels, target levels I like to use. I like to use -9 dB for a lot of the raw audio. My plugins seem to work pretty good with that. If things are peaking at -9, then that means the overall level is actually a lot lower than that. And so those plugins seem to work pretty well on a lot of them. And then also, whenever I export my finished audio, if I'm editing audio, I tend to export it at -9 dB, because I'm not trying to give people a rock concert. I'm just want that to match well with the video. And that's a good rough level for me to start. The audio for speaking and stuff, I tend to export at -3 dB, and I tend to leave, you know, a pretty considerable dynamic range in there so that that speaker doesn't feel horrible. They're loud, you can hear them, but if they do get quiet, those quiet parts still come through. The next one is the CAF compressor, and this guy I use basically to hammer that audio into shape. These settings you see are the ones that I typically use, and I can typically apply this a few times until I get that audio feeling like I just use my ears. I just use my ears and say, yeah, that feels like the level I want. And I'll just apply this a few times in the workflow. I do use this equalizer. This setting here is actually, I believe, let's see here, it's 70 Hertz. Yeah, this is one I use for like a speaker a lot of times, like some of the microphones I use. I like this setting on it here to just pre-process that audio. So I'll just bring it up to -9, run this guy on it, and clean it up. I'm sorry, say that again. Oh. All right, I'll keep moving on. All right. The next one I use is this CAF Reverb. And sometimes if I don't have room mics to capture the room and mix that in, I'll use this to just put them in their space and you know, give them that sense of space. And then CAF stereo tools. This is a little more advanced, but this basically lets me process a stereo. Like if I put 2 microphones on a piano, I could then process that either in left, right, or what they consider, they can take that same stream and do the middle and the sides. And this setting here is typically what I don't actually touch it much with this, but I like to put a little delay on. So a little delay on one of the sides, and that really just seems to open it up with this tool. If I just, that little bit of delay, it just keeps everything from feeling like a giant ball in the center. So I like to use that one for some of that. This is one I use a lot, especially for this noise reduction. It's a 2-step process. You sample a sound you want to get rid of, and then you select the area that you want to get rid of it from, and then apply it. There's 2 versions of this, or you can do the reduce, which removes that noise, or you can flip it to residual temporarily. I don't recommend you keeping the noise, but I like to use residual to listen to see what's being taken out. That way I make sure I don't take out too much of typically a speaker's voice. A lot of times I'll use this to get out background noise, like low rumble. Maybe they'll have a fan running or their AC or heaters going when they've worked or when they've recorded, or possibly there's just, you know, just things in the background that are gonna, you don't really want to amplify, because we're editing the audio pretty severely to get it leveled and into shape, and you're not typically you don't get the best recordings from your collaborators' contributed videos. They tend to like to go outside if they can, or if they're inside, like I said, they have things running to keep themselves warm. So just a lot of noise to cut out, and this is a great tool for that. Silence, super simple. You just overwrite audio with nothing. I use this a lot to clean up, especially in multi-tracks. I use it to clean up spots that have microphone bleed that I don't, I want to keep my time alignment good. So I just highlight those sections that I know I don't even want, and I just overwrite them with silence. That way, when I mix it, I'm not competing with the noise from those microphones. The other thing I do is when I get into the last demo is I will use this to help align segments when I need to take audio or video that has like a scratch track on it that came from your camera, and you want to mix it with some better, how do you say it, more professionally recorded audio or the multi-track audio. So you want to use silence and some time shifting to get these segments to line up. And so that's the two places I typically use it. And the final tool I tend to use is this guy, and it looks, what you can see is there's a section highlighted, and that is an audio clip. On the horizontal is time, the vertical is frequency, and where I've highlighted is the set of frequencies and time component that I'm interested in when I use this multi-tool to reduce. So I'm typically going in and deleting annoying sounds in a more precise manner. You can go in with a multi-band EQ and do a similar thing, but I find the visual feedback I get from this process to help me hone in better which area is better than I do using the multi-band EQ and doing a sweep. I usually find those to be better for things that are persistent, for things that are much more transient, like if somebody has like a phone alarm going off, or something like maybe there's a truck that's in reverse mode and it's got that beep, beep, beep. I find this easier to do and just find those beeps and cut them out. So that seems to work better for me. All right. Before I get into the demos, I did want to just briefly go through this. So this is sort of like the simplest workflow, talking about all those tools that I just reviewed with you. You can see at the top there, top left, I just import the audio, -9 dB Amplify. I run some high pass filtering on it just to get all that mud out of there. And also because the noise reduction tool I have doesn't work really good on low frequency signals. It tends to like all the stuff, in the low mids and highs. It's great on that, but the low end, it just doesn't. And a high pass filter, so just cutting off all that low end stuff tends to be what works best for me. And then right there, I'm using Amplify with that -1 dB. I'll just find like any large transients, maybe they coughed, or maybe they just turned on the recorder or turned it off, or something happens that's really loud, like they laughed or something. I'll just listen to it, and if it's noise, I just damp it down so that I can get that out of the way and get the most level out of it I can, back to -9. And then I just run through these processes, noise reduction if needed. Probably music, I don't typically need it, but I have had some where it was poorly recorded and I need to do that. Then I bring it up to -3. I like to use -3 because that's my target for all the speaking. So for momentarily, I just bring my audio up to -3 because I already have my settings on my compressor I like. And I might, if needed, I'll hit it with that compressor, use it. Yeah, I think I'm using an 8:1 on that. And then finally, I typically put it at -9, but if it was like super soft, like a single instrument like a harp or something, I might bump that up a little bit because it's not as full as, say, somebody who is a full choir singing or some pre-recorded music. So I might bring that up to -9. Sometimes -9's good. If it's really loud, then I'm -12. Like if it just all depends on what my ears tell me. And then finally, I export it. Speech is more complicated. It is just a lot of the same things that I just talked about, but this is a general flow. The only thing to really point out is over here, I did mention some stereo balancing. What I do is if it's like a stereo track that I have and that person was standing off center from the camera, I'll actually go ahead and split those tracks into mono and then bring them back up to both of them so they're both at -9 dB, and then join those as a stereo track. And that typically puts that speaker's voice back in the center of the listening field. It's crude, but that's what I do. The other thing is sometimes I didn't show you here, but sometimes I use a De-Esser just to get, if they're really close to the microphone, and you're hearing a lot of those T's and S's that are, that sound, it just selectively dampens those down for me so I don't have to go find them. So yeah, that's sort of that process. And then finally, the biggest process here is if I have multi-track audio. It's a lot of the same processes, except I do go ahead and name the tracks. Over here, I will label them. Like I'll label sections along the time, left and right, and I'll show a quick demo of one of that, just that labeling process. But let's see here, import scratch audio when we're near the end. Once I have a good mix I like, I do mix and render that down, all those tracks down to a stereo pair. And then finally, I just bring that scratch audio in and then I align it. And then I select the region of that mix that I have using the start and end of the scratch video. And then I export it. And I'll be demoing that. But I just wanted to give you the high level so I'm not spending a lot of time showing you these details here. All right. Let me edit and replace videos embedded audio. And then we'll do video scratch audio. So let's see here. Let me switch over to my demo screens. All right. So for here, let me bring this file over here first. I have my directory. So this is the scratch audio. Oops, is that the one I want? Yeah. Let's see here. I feel like go back, make sure I'm doing the right ones. Okay, so I want to replace embedded video first. I apologize. I was setting up. Let's go to demo 3. Go to demo 3. All right, demo 3. So let's see here. So yeah, let's just take these guys and switch to, looks like I lost that video. So let me open up a command line here real fast. All right, we're in the demo. So let me just go ahead and extract these guys. Oops, what did I do wrong? I thought I copied those over. Oh, I forgot to move them out. There we go. Let's go back. Nope, that folder. That's the one we want. Apologies, I thought I had this one set up. All right, so now we're good. So we're just gonna extract those out real fast. Okay, those are done. So now we can go into Audacity. File. We'll import some audio. And let's see here. I'm gonna go to the third demo. So this is audio. We're actually just going to replace this stuff. First one I want, let me do this reading first. So this is the original audio I got here.
I am reading from the book of the Wisdom of Solomon.
And I'll just turn that up quite a bit just to give you guys a little something.
To have died, and their departure was thought to be a disaster.
So,
and they're going from us to be there.
So, mostly what I would do here is, you can see this sampling rate is 44.1. I typically like to work in 4800, so I'll just set my project there. And I'm not going to go through all the processes here, but I have some hotkeys set up so I can just get to the plugins that I like the best. So I go in here, set it to -9. So that looks pretty good. So it feels pretty good. The next thing I'll do is come in here to this equalizer, and I will pick a high pass. And I have it set at 98. That feels good for a lot of things. And let me bump this up. I know I'm at -9, so I can bring that up to 0 right now. And we can just play this thing.
Their departure was thought to be a disaster.
And then I'll just roll this
and they're
around.
going from us to be their destruction.
Until I get
but
what
they
I like.
are at peace. For though in the sight of others they were punished, and their hope is full of immortality. Having been disciplined a little.
So you saw me rolling it around a little bit and then clicking that bypass. If you have good headphones on, or if you're listening through a nice system, you can actually hear what you're taking away. Probably on this, you can't hear so much what's going on, but I'll just make sure that I take away enough background without taking away the meat of that voice, especially like a male voice. I don't want to take away that low end from them unless I really have to. So basically I'll just do that, and then I'll just select and apply, and it's doing its thing. Perfect. And a lot of times too, if you have transients, I always do that high pass first, because sometimes a lot of those large transients are actually low noises. And so that high pass filter takes care of it, and I don't have to go in and do much with it. So -9. All right. So I'll go here, and there's something going on right here. If I play it, you probably can't hear it. I'll bring it up. Let's see here. So there's some noise there. We'll just find some noise. The next thing I'm gonna do is just clean up some of that noise. That sounds pretty good. So I'll just take this guy in and grab a sample of that. And then just to show you, I'll select this guy, Alt F1, and I'm going to do a residual, and we'll go ahead and apply it. And all we should hear now is noise. So there's some noise, and that's what it would have taken away. So there's some noise there, and that's what it would have taken away. So I'll do it back, I undo it, and then I'll pick reduce. So I'm just taking out all that noise there, except really I wanted to do it for the whole segment. So let me grab the whole thing. I undid it, and we'll reapply. We want to do reduce. So this one's not particularly noisy, but that's something I would do. And then finally, when I'm done with this thing, I'll bring it up to -3. And you see those transients there. I'm going to hit it with the compressor. You could listen to it. I'll play a little segment here.
Those who trust in him.
Oops, sorry. I'll bring that back down now. Somehow that got boosted way high.
Those who trust in him will understand truth, and the faith.
Right. So that's what it's doing to it. I'll just select this whole thing. And to be honest, I'm trying to move fast, and I always move fast when I do this. So I'll just click it, and I'll be watching that graph. And when it looks good, like I did that twice, there's a couple high ones there. I'm concerned about it. So I might go back and play it and say, can I do one more?
Those who trust in him.
That felt pretty good. So I'm just actually I'm gonna hit that one more time, because all that level I could get back. So the other option is I could have gone in here this way and just taken this. And usually if I'm doing this thing, I'll hit Z for 0. And let me show you that here. The clip, there's a 0. Let's see here. I forget where it is, but I know Z, if I hit Z, it's going to put these on the 0 marks. So when I do Alt F4, here I would just do -1 and then go enter. So I could have gone this way and just reduced that guy, but I'm just going to undo all that. All right, so we're good now. So the final thing to do, oops, Alt F1, oops, Alt F4. Just bring this to -3, which is my final level that I want this clip at. and then I'll select it and export as selected audio. And this original source was an MP4, and it's already got my file name that I want up there, and it's .wave. I just want it to be an M4A because it was an AAC file, audio file that I pulled in. So I want to bring it back out as an M4A. And I just do that and export, fill out the item here. And that guy is exported. And then it's just sort of rinse and repeat for each of those. I did want to, I'm not going to go through a full edit of another one, but I did want to show you one more quickly here, open. Mostly because this one, oh, that was not what I wanted. Let me just do this file, import audio. Let's do it that way. Prelude AAC. Here we go. So this one was interesting because this one you can see there's two distinct sections. So there's some music. And then there's somebody talking.
Wherever you are or wherever you are on life's journey.
So there's actually, I really have to do this in 2 steps because there's 2 different things going on. So I'll just zoom in a little bit here if I can, and I'll listen. Let me turn this up a little bit. Okay. I think probably right around there. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to select here and back. Just grab all this, and we hit the Z for 0, so it finds the 0 point. Control B to add a label, and we'll just call this music. And then the rest of this here, I'm just going to go and call that, Control B. And then, and then I'm just going to process those separately, and I'm not going to go through those steps, but I just wanted to show you how I would break that up. So then I can just grab that section and do my process on it, or grab this section and consistently grab those so I can keep working on my processes and go back and grab those sections. All right. So let me show you the last demo here, and this is only going to take a second, but I want to replace the video's scratch audio. Go back one more time, and this time let's just close all these out. File, we're going to open. Oh, I don't want to open, I actually want to import, sorry. File, import audio, and yeah, there, the last demo in the Audacity. So let's see here. This should be pretty quick. So I'm going to grab, this is a multi-track audio that has been processed and rendered to a stereo track. And what I'm going to do is import this in, and then I'm just going to show you how I align that scratch audio track. And in this case, let's go to demo 4. Demo 4, we have these guys. We've extracted these very large files. I'm not going to make you guys watch, but I've extracted the audio out already into these, and we're just going to use those to help us align it to our mix. So I'll do a file, and then I'll import audio, and we'll grab that first one. And this is going to take a second to pull in. And let's see here. And it's almost there. Sorry, these are larger files. You can see this thing is nearly 40 minutes long. And this section here, let me zoom this in a little just to make it a little better there. It looks like this spot here needs to align here. So the first thing I'll do is I'll just grab my time alignment tool and drag it over and sort of eyeball it. And then I'll start zooming in, and I'll find something that looks pretty immediate here. I'll switch back to my tool here. this guy here, and let me zoom in on that way, and we'll zoom in a little here. All right, so pretty good there. I just use that tool. And I'm just going to slide it over, get it close. I'll zoom in a little more, especially if you're doing music. You know, it's, you know, depending on what you're doing, this is actually pretty close, but I usually tend to get a little closer. I'll grab that first peak right there. I'll go to that peak. I like that guy. He looks like a good peak to line up with. Oops, I actually want to pick that one here, I believe. So we'll just go here and time align a little more, get it lined up pretty well. And so just however precise you want to be, I can tell you we're pretty close right now. So if I were to play these guys.
I always look forward to all.
So we'll solo this one.
I always look forward to.
And we'll play this one.
I always look forward.
So you can hear I'll bring these, yeah, those are fine, but there's definitely a difference between the scratch and the finished one. They feel pretty good together.
I always look forward.
All right. And then the last thing I do here, I'll just go ahead and import that second segment here. And I wait for this. This is actually the longest part of all this, is loading these files in the demo. But get this in mostly because I just want to show you how I'm moving those around and then selecting them for export. So once again, I'm using that time tool, and I'm just bringing it up and butting it up against that guy. And we'll back this back out to 1 and 1. That's pretty good. And then what I'm doing is I'll go back to this tool here, and I'll just double click on this one using my control key. Oh, it looks like there's some stuff here. I want to fill that with silence. So we'll grab that first, and I'll use that silence plugin. And that was Amplify. That's why. Silence. There we go. So I just filled that with some silence. So now I can just go in here, select up here, which will grab that section based off the start and end. And then I'll unselect that. And I'm not actually going to export it, but I'll just export the selected audio. In this case, it's MP4s again. So I would be using the M4A, and I would make it match. In this case, I'll go up here. I'm not going to do it, but if I start typing, it tends to find what I'm looking for. Oh, I'm in the assets folder. It's not in the right one. So it's here. Demos, demo 4. All right, let's try that again. So S. So then they just start filling in. In this case, I had the first one, and I want M4A. So I would just do that and then start exporting it, and then repeat for this second chunk here. You can see it doesn't quite line up. Let me zoom in there, make sure we're good. So right, so now I can actually demo this. I'll double click here, move up, move down. So you can see it actually grabbed the right start and end point right there. There's that little space. And if I were to come over this way, you got it right on that point. So then I would just export that selected audio. All right. I know we're a little short on time. Did you want me to go through the last one with Shotcut and do the replace or the final leveling on that audio?
Yes, please do.
Okay. Yeah, it'll only take a moment. Awesome. Thank you. All right. So let's see here. Shotcut. Okay. The first thing I wanted to tell you was, Shotcut is a non-destructive editor. And so it doesn't actually, all the edits you do to the videos and everything you do, it's actually still using the source files the whole time. And so if I were to open this up in a text editor, you can see this guy is just an XML file. And it is just storing basically all the things that you do to your session, and it just keeps track of it, which also makes it super handy for editing. So in this case, what I'd like to do is demo sort of that tail end of the process. In this case, here's the files in the program that's been edited. Let me open that up. Give it a second, it'll open up here shortly. And if I hit play for just a second. So it's playing, let's see here. So we got some, oh, I got these guys muted, that's why. There we go, silly me. All right, so there's that, there's some overlays over here. There's some audio.
Today we celebrate the Feast of All Saints.
And this is all the scratch audio, like, so the levels are low, they're uneven. So you sort of get the idea there. The harp is actually a lot louder because that was handed to me elsewhere. All right, so that is what's in Shotcut. And we have, these are all the original files that were used to create that video. And what I'm actually going to do is let me go back to Shotcut for a minute. I'm actually going to close this for a minute. We'll close it. Yeah, we'll actually save it because I did make some small changes. And we're just going to go in here and grab the edited videos. And I'm just going to move them to here. And now they've all lined up. We have our movie and our edited movie. And then typically what I'll do, I have one called ORG already, but typically I'll just create a new file, a new folder. And just say, so I just call it Scratch. Usually I use org, but I have the backups I needed in org. So I just grab all these original ones. This one didn't have a backup. I'm leaving it as is. Boom. And this one, this one, this one, and this one. I just grab all those files and I just move them into my Scratch folder. And then here I just start relabeling these. I just take off the word edit on each of these. And I'm just using some hotkeys, F2 and the arrow keys to get me through these. Yes, I could write a script, but sometimes I have files that don't meet the MP4 movie standard, and I don't, so we have some edge cases. So I just like to do it all sort of manually. And then I can look at this visually and say, did I get them all? And I sure didn't. So we do that, F2. All right, so now I've done that. I am just gonna reopen that file in Shotcut again. So we just open it, uh-oh, it's missing some. It looks like oh, look at that. It's sensitive to file type. So it's lowercase MP4, uppercase MP4. Yeah, so you gotta be careful with that. Let's go look at our Scratch. Maybe I did some, oh, those were capitals. So rename, apologies, but we'll fix it up. This happens in real life for me too, every time I do this. I probably could write better scripts that looks at the casing better. But that's okay for what we're doing here. Let's just run that one more time and have it yell at me. Let's see which other one it was. That was the Shotcut's Prelude and Greeting. You just say cancel one more time. We come back in here, Prelude and Greeting. If I looked at the Scratch, it was lowercase and Prelude and Greeting. Oh, I forgot to rename it. So we just F2. All right, so Shotcut's pretty handy that way. And we'll just cancel that and close that. We don't need that anymore. Come back in one more time. All right, so now it's loading. It loaded back in, but now I have that edited audio and video in. And hopefully the talk.
My front yard, my ravine and stream.
The Lord.
And that's a quiet part. Let's go to a louder part.
Beloved saints here at Kent UCC.
So.
And place the saints of God.
In the environment. For every.
And this is the one that we looked at in an earlier demo. Oops.
Are in the hand of God, and no.
So I'm just sort of clicking through a bit.
Burnt offering.
All right, and then the harp music. Okay, so everything's got a rough level on it because I did that in my pre-processing. Like I said, audio sitting at -9, through -12, depending on the intensity of it. All of my audio clips, all the speaking is sitting at -3 dB, but some people's voices are fuller than others, and sometimes clips, just because of the way the editing happens, don't sound as loud as others. So what I'll typically do, like these things with the audio, typically I'll start with the voice. I'll start listening to the main speaker, which in this case is the minister. I sort of focus on that and get all of their clips balanced, like I would listen here.
Commemoration of Christian martyrs.
So I'd listen there, and then I'd come over here and get a sense of how these feel.
Spirit, give us grace and understanding for.
And I typically find that these are pretty good, but if I needed to make a crude adjustment, there's only 3 dB of headroom, and I'm okay with that. I don't want to go above 1 dB of headroom because I know that we're going to have one more re-render on this thing. So in this case, for this audio, what I would do is I would actually use a compressor on it here. I can go into the audio ones, and there's one that I like here that I've already got set up. And let's see here. I actually did not set it up. I got a preset. I call it the soft limit. It's just a quick attack, a quick release. And then at -4, I'm doing 1 to 15, which is pretty aggressive, but not like a brick wall. And then a slight knee on it, and then a makeup gain of 4. So I will just take that and I'll listen.
Dead among us.
And then decide if I like it, and then compare it to some reference elsewhere. And then what I might do is just bump this down. I might lower the peak and then bring this back up to make up that gain. And so then that way I'm not clipping and I'm just compressing that audio some more. That's the most complicated thing I do. But a lot of times what I find I'll do that on a lot of these audio ones to get those leveled up. But the music, I actually have some headroom on. So if I select that one, then I'm just going through and I will grab audio and I'll just grab a gain. So basically like the Amplify. So I'll just hit play, and then I'll just come through and adjust as needed. I know I have 8 dB of headroom for a total of 9. I can go up that much without affecting anything. If I have to go any more, then I'm going to go in with that compressor and start squashing it down. Anyways, when I'm all done with that, I'm not going to show it, but I usually just export this guy, and oops, I don't want to do that. I just actually want to advanced. We're usually doing 1920 by 1080, 30 frames per second. That's mostly because we're not doing anything with a lot of action. So we do keep the audio up pretty high, 48K, 384 kilobits for sound. Codecs, usually the default's 55. On this setup, I usually use 65, and our destination is YouTube, and that's a pretty good balance of quality and file size. And then from there, we're just rendering that file. So I think that's my last demo for you. Let's see here. Yep, so I just did those demos. I did want to thank these people for letting me have permissions to use their video and audio. It was really nice of them to let me put this presentation together for you guys. And thank you, everybody who gave me permissions to use their content. And these audio files that we've used, I also got permission for the performers. These audios either in the public domain or they're the authors thereof. So, and have given permission. So with that, the last thing is some resources. All the things I used, the websites you can go to get these things to use for your own setup if you wanted to explore any of these more. And finally, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Julie. That was excellent. You always give very, very well thought out and really excellent presentations every time. That was wonderful. I would like to thank everyone for staying with us, and I'm looking for questions. I know Cameron and I have some questions. I'll give everybody a minute, and I'll give you again, I'm I'm posting to everyone our next presentation that we're going to have Friday, December the 3rd. We're going to have an ACM Distinguished Speaker lecture on the December the 3rd. That's a Friday from 5 o'clock to 6:30. And that topic will be big data versus right data, opportunities and challenges. Our speaker will be Ricardo Biza Yates. He's a computer scientist at Northeastern University in California, Silicon Valley. And he is the former VP of research at Yahoo Labs. And I also supplied the link, and that's going to be really good. That's December the 3rd. Again, you can post your questions. If you want to ask your question directly to Julie, you can. Since we don't have a whole lot of people to bog us down, we have enough time. If you like, you can just ask the question to Julie directly.
Yeah, feel free to turn on your mic and ask, or if you feel more comfortable typing, that's fine too. And Tracy will look at that chat box in case anything pops up. But yeah, I'm free for any questions anyone might have. I know I covered a lot and I went as fast as I could, but you know, thanks for sure for sticking in with that with me and going through that.
It was a very good pace, I thought. Cameron, he had a question. You first. Okay, so my question was, since last year we did our concert that we did, and we had to take, similar to you, videos from different sources and audio, and we had to extract the audio. For us, we had to do a lot of processing and adding tracks and a lot of orchestration and things like that. So I guess my question is, did you have any problems or issues with syncing? Because I know I had a lot of issues with that. Syncing that video, especially if someone's playing an instrument or talking, and taking that audio and processing it and putting it back in and making sure everything syncs up.
Yeah, well, let me answer the first. I sort of felt like there was two questions, but the first little one was like you asked about problems in general. I standardized on 48K, mostly because in the rendering phase, especially during crossfades, the version of Shotcut we were using at the time was putting little pops into the audio, and I don't know what the bug was, but if I change this, if I made all the clips have the same sample rate, then I didn't get those pops anymore. So that was sort of like the first little trick, was like deciding on my sample rate before I start. So that's how, so everything we process at 48K, just so it's the same, and then we avoid that. As far as syncing, I showed you that process. I go into Audacity, I can be, I can get that pretty tight, right? If that scratch audio is in sync, then the replaced audio is in sync. And in like those methods of extracting, editing, and recompositing, those processes are designed so that they stay in sync. I have not, knock on wood, I have not had an issue with that, because, those processes that I've been using have been pretty rock solid for me for the past year and a half, almost 2 years now that I've been doing these processes. So, but there's definitely some trial and error, like to figure out the best way to do that. And, especially these big files, that's like, if you don't know what you're doing and you spend a half hour or an hour waiting for your audio to get extracted out just to find out you did it wrong, or, or you wait to render it to find out that it's not in sync, So that's why I was hoping this would show people like a way to make it happen, to do it without, hopefully somebody will avoid some of the trip ups we had by seeing somebody else do it, right? Like, so that's what this was for. But sync issue was not one, because that was from the get-go. We started off simple, and as long as the audio that we put back has the same start and end time, right? And we're not time shifting any of that, that actually marries up okay. So some of the problems we've had is, and Shotcut in particular, there's some file formats that aren't good for video processing. And so it will tell you if it has like a variable bit rate on the encoding for the video. So then it will convert that video for us. The start and stop times are still good. There may be a little sway back and forth, but nothing we've ever noticed. Usually we'll just take that converted one and I'll take that extracted audio and replace it to the converted video instead. And, but no, we haven't had any issues. Thanks.
Okay.
I got a quick question for you. On the Ubuntu Studio, it sounds like you said you want to run Ubuntu on Ubuntu, or is it possible to run Ubuntu Studio on other distributions, but it's just better to run it on Ubuntu? What did you mean?
So Ubuntu Studio, is Ubuntu. It's a derivative of Ubuntu. And they've just put, like, I went through that process of configuring my system. They do that. And then when they build the audio apps, some of them, like, especially if you're using like Ardour, which is DAW, it's a technical build, like, so it's, they just pay more attention to those. So you get all the features built in and that it runs smoothly. So they're maintaining that. I was suggesting you could take your Windows machine, spin up a VM and put Ubuntu Studio on it, but you're not going to have the same satisfaction, right? If you want to run high performance audio system, like if you are doing multi-track recordings, editing, and you want to have a Pro Tools DAW experience, you do not want to be running your operating system inside a VM. You want, you don't want to run through that virtualization layer and then out. I guess
what I'm getting at is I'm running, I run SUSE.
Yeah, I've used it before. Yeah.
Yeah, and so I'm wondering, could I drop Ubuntu on that, or would I have to do something special, as far as running?
I would really suggest you just take my route. Yeah, you can do it if you want to just see how those packages work. The biggest thing you're going to have trouble with are X runs, like overruns, where you're going to get some clipping or some dropouts when it's processing, especially if you're recording. I would be concerned about running it through a VM for anything serious. You want to be as close to the hardware as possible.
So I couldn't natively run Ubuntu Studio on.
You can natively run it. I mean, you can't run it. It is an OS. It's an operating system.
That's what I want.
It's an operating system.
Okay.
It's a Linux-based operating system. So. Okay. So that's the key. Yeah. So you could dual boot, right? You could do that, right?
So it's basically like a music kiosk almost.
You're right. Yeah, it is a OS distro geared for audio and video production.
Okay, I got it. Now I understand.
Yeah, but like I said, I prefer to just roll my own, put the low latency kernel in, avoid compiling a real-time kernel. Just use the low latency one. I use the real-time config tool to help get my timer set up correctly and, get my audio group set up, get my governor on my CPU set up to use performance. Typically by default, it's on demand. You really want it set to performance if you're doing audio. But the reality is for the things I've showed today, you don't need all of that on a modern computer. You can just pull Audacity and Shotcut out of the box and run it. And to be honest, on our video editing computer, we didn't do any of those tweaks. It's just Linux. We grabbed a copy of Shotcut and we're running it. We did not tweak the system.
How long is Shotcut pretty stable? How long has it been around?
Oh, years and years and years. It's been open source. This was actually first created for the India Broadcasting Company. So this is actually started in India, and they actually use it for commercial products. I mean, it is top-notch software.
Yeah. So did Apple and Final Cut rip off the name, or did Shotcut get the name from Final Cut?
I can't answer that.
Thank you. You did an excellent presentation.
Yeah.
Just top shelf.
Yep.
So very, very good.
Okay, are there any other questions out there? You could just speak up, turn your mic on.
Dr. Hug wanted me to tell you that you did the best recording he's ever heard of the band.
Oh, thank you. Thank
Yeah.
you. I'm glad. This was back in the summer. That was the big band, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. That's high compliments. Thank you.
Yeah, I listened to a good part of that. It was really good.
Very good.
Very good. Yeah.
Exceptional. These Audacity plugins. That is that like a standard for? I didn't know that Audacity had a plugin kind of concept. So
Yes.
are you just using that with Audacity, or are those designed to be plugins for it?
You can use them standalone, but yeah, you can use them in the Jack workflow. They can plug in and you can just do inputs, outputs with Jack. I was just actually using Pulse Audio. I didn't even start up Jack for any of this. I just using what came out of the box. I'm using Pulse Audio, and in Audacity, yeah, they have a plugin framework. They're using the LV2 framework, but they'll also take they'll take some of the other ones as well. Some of the more antiquated ones, they'll actually work with all those as well. But LV2 is what I'm using.
Wow. When I use Audacity, it always has, usually have all the stuff built in. So I've never had to look for any kind of, additional stuff. So I didn't have plugins.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, all those are plugins. Those are just the standard ones that come with it.
Oh,
I went to CAF Studio, and those are Linux based. They're not cross-platform. They're only for Linux.
Oh, okay.
And I pulled those in because I like what I found was the built-in plugins are not interactive. Like I can't play the audio and listen to its effect and then make decisions, right? Sort of like you do in a DAW. You put it on your bus and you play your audio through it, and while it's playing, you tweak it. Yeah. Those Audacity plugins are not like that. Like you select the region, you hit apply, then you listen. Right. If you don't like it, you undo it. Right. These plugins are in line, so I can hit play and start tweaking the knobs, and I'm getting the visual feedback because yes, I'm audio, but I love my visual feedback. Like, because my ears lie to me all the time. Right. So I like to see the GUI aspect of it. I like to touch the knobs, and I like to hear the response as I'm adjusting the compressor, or especially like the EQ and that low, or if I'm doing like a high pass, I definitely like to hear it in real time and just find that spot that I like and then select the area and apply. Now, so I can't stack up the plugins.
You apply at the end. Okay, I got
it. Yeah. Well, it's just on there, but I can actually, in Audacity, I'm actually editing the audio. It's destructive, right? So it's destructive, whereas in Shotcut, everything is non-destructive. So I'm actually editing that audio, and if so I'm actually mutating, what it has in memory. I can choose to save it out as an Audacity project, or when I export that audio, it's all in there. So that's the difference is, unlike a DAW, it's all pretty non-destructive. Like you put your plugins in, you put it on your track, and you move on, then you decide, oh, I don't like that. You just pull the plugin off, and then that effect goes away. With this one, once you apply it, it's baked.
Okay.
Okay. James Dietrich had a comment and a question. He said, I remember LADSPA format plugins were really difficult to get working without crashing in Audacity back in 2010.
Still true.
You have a VU style metering?
VU style, yeah, I do. Well, there was instantaneous metering right on the top. I didn't show it here, but I also have a K meter plugin, so I can actually, if I want to do loudness measurements over time, I can open up that K meter, and it will integrate it as I play. I can just hit reset, and then it will give me the short-term integration and the full integration and the overall level and the range of that video, but you actually have to feed it through and play it through. It's not like an analysis tool, like after the fact. It's a real-time tool. So it's a plugin, and that's an LV2 plugin as well. But yeah, the LAD spas, I just turned those off because they're still buggy for me. Those LAD spa ones. I mean, it was a great idea, but I think everybody's moved over to LV2. You can get VSTs if they're compiled right to run, but I just stick with the LV2s.
Wow.
Oh, okay. His response, JD's response is, I feel like it's more accurate to how your ears hear it. It's a shame because I learned how to write LAD spa.
I'm sorry. Yeah, you know, to be honest, my methods are not good if your plan is to have the loudest video that you can on YouTube, Spotify, or whatever your destination is. Like the audio, if you're looking for them to not touch it, they have certain standards you have to meet, and you better get in there with a leveling device and a meter and check those levels for whatever platform you're going to. But the reality is I'm giving them plenty of headroom, like -3 dB. So if they want to raise it a little bit, cool, before they squash it. Once I re-render, it might be sitting at -2 dB. So I'm good that way. I may be a little quiet. That's okay. We're not trying to be the loudest, best video out there. Like if that was it, then maybe they shouldn't have, you know, the people I'm working for shouldn't have given me less than a day to assemble an hour-long video and get it up there. These are processes to get it dirty, done, and out the door, right? You know,
-3, -2, that's good. You know, that's good.
Yeah. So yeah, you can put the level meter on there. I make it pretty loud, but you know, and also people are talking, right? If you're trying to meet those standards, like, you know, if they want to be in LUFS or whatever, and you want -13 LUFS, it's really hard when most of it is people talking. They're just going to be shouting at you, right? You know, and that's really hard. Nobody wants to hear that. I'd just rather people turn up their volume on their device and realize that, you know, these are just people trying to put out whatever their message is. And if they want something more commercial, then, you know, most of that commercial stuff I get in, I have to turn it way down to match what we're doing.
Wow.
You know, so because it'll come in at -0.01 dB.
Whoa.
So then I'm like, -9, let's see how that sounds. Oh no, -11 is actually better. It fits what I'm doing. I just use my ears and start adjusting, you know.
Okay, then he says, they will apply their leveling no matter what. A lot of creators complain about it.
Yeah, that's true. You have to know what the platform standards are. And, you know, I have friends who are really into this stuff and they do it at a higher level than I do. And there are tools out there to help you get those target rates. They'll quickly analyze your tool. You know, you can upload them and they'll check them for you, or you can just grab your own metering tool. There's some open source ones out there. I don't have the resources immediately available, but you can just run your audio through it, get that reading, and then compare it to the platform standards, you know, and you can at least minimize the amount of emaciations they're going to do or changes they're going to do to your audio so that it goes through as pure as you would like, as you can.
Yeah. What do they typically bring your audio down? Is that what they typically do, or do they don't do a bunch to bring it up?
Yeah, well, I think, you know, I can't really talk to them, and it's a moving target, right? But they have their standards. And if your audio doesn't meet their standards and pass through, then they're slapping on heavy compressors, or they're just turning the gain way down if you gave them something too hot, right?
Yeah.
And the reality is the hotter you make your signal, probably the less dynamic it is.
Right.
So in our ears, loud is good, right? That's what our ears like. If it's louder, it's better. But unfortunately, when you take that loud signal and you turn it down, it may not sound as good as something that is equally now as loud, but more dynamic, right? Because usually that's the sacrifice is the louder it feels, the less dynamic it is, right?
Right.
Especially if you're talking about music.
That's right. Wow.
Okay, are there any other questions out there? Anybody have any comments or anything they really like what Julie went over?
It was just an excellent job,
Yes.
Julie. The slides were very clear. Things
Yes.
were very easy to understand. They were very easy to read. The colors were just perfect. It was just a very well done presentation.
Could you send me those links that you had? I think the last couple of slides, you had a link of the tool.
Totally.
And then I could send it out to everybody that was in the meetup today.
Yeah, and happy to give you my slide deck as well if you like.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll just give it to you as a PDF. That's what I was showing was a PDF. So
yeah.
Do you use Impress? Do you use OpenOffice Impress for slides at all?
Yeah. Yeah, I do. That's what I created all those diagrams. I did the Libra Draw for all the diagramming, and Libra Impress, which is basically like PowerPoint. I did that. That's like how I created the presentation. Yeah.
Yep. It's
So
like PowerPoint, just better, Julie.
Yeah.
I didn't pay for it. Right? That's what I like about it is I didn't pay. But I also like the fact that I just for me open source is just the way to go.
Yeah.
I have my own thoughts and feelings about that. Everyone has different things, but in the end you pay, right? You pay with your time or you pay with your money. I just keep choosing to pay with my time.
Yeah.
Right.
We pay all of the stuff we do is open source. All of the software we release is open source. Open source is like, for the most part, made our education possible. It made our professional possible. So there's just no way that when we do our stuff, we would go proprietary. It's just no way.
Yeah.
So we're very much committed to open source and the Free Software Foundation.
Yeah. Well, totally. Well, given, freedoms, like I'm not giving away any of my information. Like the worst case is a crash report from Audacity, right? There's a controversy over sending that telemetry.
Yeah.
I choose not to send it, right? Every time there's a crash report, they give me an option. Do you want to send it or not? So I just say no. But, but if I don't like that, it's open source. I can grab that source code. I could rip that telemetry out and I could recompile it and have one without it, right? So that's a freedom level that I don't have if I'm using Pro Tools. They're not going to hand me their source code, right? They're not going to let me rip out the locking mechanism, right? They want me to pay. And they're going to gather any data they want on me. And I'm going to send it up and they're going to take it from me, right? If I want to, even though I gave them my money, they're still taking my data, right? They're,
what?
In open source, it's a leveler, right? I'm not giving away my personal freedoms, my information, and I'm not giving away my money unless I want to, right? I can donate to projects and I have, and, and I can contribute on different levels. As a software developer, I can contribute to those projects and I have, right? And I have done that in the past. And also, to me, that it's just a win all around. It's a leveler. Like the stuff I'm doing, somebody else who can do that too, right? Obviously they need a certain level they need a computer, they need things like that, but they don't need to invest any money outside of what they are already doing for their computing. Like, you don't have to go spend thousands of dollars on this stuff. You don't need all of it, but you can still do really good stuff. And
it might be a really good idea. That's like a good idea for a talk for us just to do a whole session on open source, free software, how you can contribute in different ways.
Yes.
How you can give back, how you can financially, how to actually donate, when, where, how, why, that sounds like something good. How you can contribute at the code level or at functional level. That's like a good thing that we could do a talk on, just open source and free software foundation and the GPL 2 and 3 licensing, that seems like that'd be a nice,
Yeah.
you know, a day that we could spend,
Right.
you know, on open source.